Every day, millions of Americans go online looking for simple solutions to everyday problems. They search for software downloads, technical support, and help with their devices. What they don't expect is to become victims of one of the most sophisticated international fraud operations in the world. This is the story of how a massive scam center in India systematically targets American seniors, stealing millions of dollars from people who can least afford to lose it. It's also the story of one ethical hacker who decided to fight back, infiltrating their operation and exposing the heartless criminals behind these devastating crimes. The scam begins with something as innocent as searching for help with a new Amazon Alexa device. When someone just purchases a brand new Amazon Alexa device and tries to set it up, the instructions tell them to download the Alexa app. Like millions of others, they go to Google and search for something like Download Alexa app. What these victims don't know is that criminals have paid for fake advertisements that appear at the top of search results. These ads look legitimate, but they lead to websites designed to steal money. When someone clicks on what they think is the official Alexa download site, they're actually entering a carefully constructed trap. The fake website looks professional and trustworthy. It has the right colors, logos that seem authentic, and download buttons that appear to work. The victim clicks the download button for Windows and watches as a progress bar fills up on their screen. They have no reason to suspect anything is wrong. But then something unexpected happens. Instead of the software downloading successfully, the victim sees an error message. Network error. We couldn't complete your download. Please chat with us for more info. Below this message is a button that says Join Chat. At this point, the victim faces a choice that millions of Americans make every day. They can give up and try to figure things out on their own, or they can click that chat button and ask for help. Like most people, victims choose to ask for help. They have no idea that this simple click will change their life forever. The moment someone joins the chat, they're connected to a scam center in India. The building housing this operation sits in an upscale complex called the Atrium Cork City in Mohali, Punjab. It's a modern facility with swimming pools, fitness centers, and 24-hour security. To anyone walking by, it looks like a legitimate business operation. Inside this building, dozens of scammers sit at computer workstations, waiting for victims to click that chat button. The operation runs like any other business, with managers, HR departments, and organized shifts. The only difference is that their business model is built entirely on stealing money from vulnerable Americans. When a victim connects to the chat, they're greeted by someone who claims to be a technical support representative. The scammer, following a carefully rehearsed script, asks for their name and phone number. They tell them they need to call back to better assist with their technical problem. Victims provide their information without hesitation. Why wouldn't they? They believe they're talking to legitimate technical support. Within minutes, their phone rings, and they're speaking with someone who sounds professional and knowledgeable about computers. The caller explains that there's a serious problem with the victim's computer that's preventing the download from working. They use technical terms that victims don't understand, making them feel confused and dependent on their help. The scammer tells them that to fix the problem, they need to remotely access their computer. This is where victims face the most critical moment of the entire scam. The caller asks them to download and install software that will allow the scammers to control their computer remotely. They assure victims this is completely normal and safe. They might even mention that major companies like Microsoft and Apple use similar remote access tools. Against their better judgment, victims follow the instructions and install the remote access software. The moment they do this, they've given the scammers complete control over their computer. The scammers can see everything on their screen, access all their files, and even watch them type passwords and personal information. What happens next is a masterclass in psychological manipulation. The scammer begins running fake diagnostic scans on the victim's computer, showing them things that look alarming but are actually completely normal system processes. They point to lists of running services and stopped services, claiming these indicate serious security problems. The scammer tells the victim in a concerned voice that they're seeing very serious issues. They claim the computer has been compromised and that hackers have been accessing personal information. They say bank accounts, social security numbers, everything is at risk. The victim's heart starts racing. The scammer continues painting an increasingly frightening picture of the computer's supposed problems. They show more screens filled with technical information the victim doesn't understand, each one reinforcing the narrative that they're in serious danger. The scammer then introduces their fake solution, a computer protection plan. They explain that for a fee, they can install special security software that will protect the victim's computer from future attacks. The price starts at $299 for 2 years of protection. To victims sitting at their computer and looking at screens full of scary-looking technical information, $299 seems like a small price to pay to protect their life savings and personal information. The scammer has created a sense of urgency and fear that makes rational thinking nearly impossible. But $299 is just the beginning. Once victims agree to pay, the scammer often escalates their demands. They might claim that the computer is so severely compromised that additional protection plans are needed. Some victims end up paying $500, services that don't exist. The payment process is designed to make victims feel like they're dealing with a legitimate business. The scammers send professional-looking invoices through DocuSign. They process payments through well-known services like PayPal and Stripe. Everything appears official and above board. Victims enter their credit card information or provide their banking details, believing they're purchasing necessary computer security. In reality, they're handing their money directly to criminals who will never provide any services in return. The psychological impact on these victims cannot be overstated. These are often people who have worked their entire lives, saved carefully for retirement, and built up nest eggs to support themselves in their golden years. Many are living on fixed incomes, where every dollar matters. When victims realize they've been scammed, the emotional devastation is overwhelming. There's the immediate financial loss, which might represent months or even years of careful saving. But beyond the money, there's a deeper sense of violation and betrayal. Victims feel foolish for falling for the scam. They question their own judgment and intelligence. They worry about what their family will think when they find out what happened. They're embarrassed and ashamed. Emotions that prevent many scam victims from reporting their experiences or seeking help. The ripple effects extend beyond just the immediate victim. Family members feel guilty and worry about their loved one's ability to live independently. The scam doesn't just steal money, it steals dignity and confidence. For many elderly victims, being scammed represents a turning point in their lives. They become fearful of technology and suspicious of legitimate business interactions. Some stop using computers entirely, cutting themselves off from family communications and modern conveniences. Others develop anxiety and depression related to their financial losses and feelings of vulnerability. The criminals running these operations understand exactly what they're doing. They specifically target older Americans because they know this demographic is more likely to have savings, more trusting of authority figures, and less familiar with modern scam tactics. It's a calculated exploitation of generational vulnerabilities. The scale of this problem is staggering. According to the Federal Trade Commission, Americans lost over $10 billion to fraud in 2023, with people over 60 accounting for the largest share of losses. These numbers represent real people facing real consequences. Some victims lose their entire life savings. Others are forced to continue working well into their 80s to replace stolen retirement funds. Some move in with adult children because they can no longer afford independent living. The scam center in Mohali operates with ruthless efficiency. They process an average of $100, though in fraudulent payments every month. Over the course of a year, they steal more than $1, $1 million from American and Canadian victims. In just 3 years, their total theft exceeded $2,700,000. These aren't random criminals operating from basement computers. This is a sophisticated business operation with multiple employees, management structures, and organized systems for processing stolen money. The directors of the company, Rajan Bhupinder, registered their business SkySaver Ventures Private Limited legally in India, while using it to commit crimes against Americans. The operation includes specialized roles for different aspects of the scam. Some employees focus on the initial contact and technical manipulation. Others, like Chavi, manage the financial processing and payment systems. There's even an HR manager, Avneet, who handles employee records and access cards for the building. The fact that this operates as a legitimate-seeming business makes it even more disturbing. These people go to work every day knowing they're going to steal money from vulnerable seniors. They socialize together, eat meals together, and build careers around victimizing people who can least afford the losses. The scam center's success depends on staying hidden and avoiding consequences. They use shell companies in the United States to launder their stolen money, making it harder for authorities to trace the funds back to India. They constantly change their tactics and websites to stay ahead of law enforcement efforts. For years, operations like this one have operated with virtual impunity. The international nature of the crimes makes prosecution difficult. Victims often don't report the scams due to embarrassment or lack of awareness about how to seek help. The criminals benefit from this silence and continue targeting new victims every day. But this particular story takes an unexpected turn. An ethical hacker, working independently, decided to investigate and fight back against these scammers. Using advanced technical skills, this individual was able to infiltrate the scam center's computer networks and document their criminal activities. The investigation began when the hacker was doing their usual look around for scammer phone numbers. They came across a list of websites that looked very scammy. The website appeared fairly tame and legitimate on the surface, but in reality it was all a scheme to get people to pay for useless drivers or security software. The hacker decided to pose as a victim and see how the scam worked. They went through the entire process, from the fake download website to the error message that directed them to chat support. When they joined the support chat, the scammers asked for their name and phone number for a callback. Just as expected, during the phone call, the scammers tried to convince the hacker that they needed to install remote access software to fix the supposed issue.
Let me just show you.
I don't know what the IP is.
Look over here. Do you see that here?
What is that?
These are the people who are connected with your computer, sir.
But instead of simply allowing the scammers access, the hacker did something remarkable. While the scammers attempted to connect to their computer, the hacker was actually connecting back to them, reversing the access onto the scammer's computer. This reverse connection gave the hacker an inside view of the scam operation. They could see exactly how the scammers operated, what they told victims, and how they processed payments. The scammer went through their usual routine, showing fake computer problems and trying to sell bogus support plans for $290 for 2 years. The hacker played along, pretending to be concerned about the fake computer problems. The scammer pitched their protection plan, claiming it would protect against future bad activity on the victim's devices. But there wasn't a single real problem with the fake virtual computer the hacker had created just 10 minutes earlier. Eventually, the hacker decided to confront the scammer directly about the fraud. When asked if they wanted the security service, the hacker responded that they were starting to think the person was a scammer. The confrontation led to the scammer quickly disconnecting from the call, but by then the hacker had gained valuable access to their network. Through this initial access, the hacker was able to discover something extraordinary: a set of CCTV security cameras connected to the same network. The cameras provided a complete view into the daily operations of the scam call center. These cameras gave the hacker insight into the day-to-day lives of the scammers and a good sense of what the call center looked like and the layout of the building. In total, there were 12 camera views, and by doing a simple head count, the hacker could see that there were around 15 to 20 agents usually on the floor at once. The hacker spotted the scammers many times eating and socializing just like in any normal job. But this wasn't a normal job, it was a criminal enterprise designed to steal money from vulnerable Americans. While the hacker had gained access to one machine in the call center and breached their CCTV security cameras, they didn't initially know how to further advance their investigation to prove definitively that these people were scammers. The cameras didn't have audio capability, which made it difficult to record actual scam conversations. However, the scammers had made a critical mistake. They had call recording switched on in their phone system, and even better, they had an application on some of their machines called Flashback Recorder. This application not only screen recorded the actual desktop display but also captured audio from the microphone connected to each computer. The hacker could match the timeline of the audio recordings to the timeline of the CCTV footage to watch scams that had happened in the past. But the scammers had made things even easier by not using traditional phone systems. They used virtual phone systems that the hacker could access directly. Over time, the hacker gained access to several more machines in the call center, which allowed them to gather rock-solid evidence of the scammers' activities. They were able to record actual scam calls as they happened, showing exactly how the criminals manipulated their victims. In one recorded call, the hacker captured a scammer talking to a real victim who was having trouble accessing a website. The scammer told the victim that most of their computer services were down, and that this was causing network connectivity problems. The scammer claimed that the victim's smart devices couldn't connect properly because of these supposed issues. The scammer then told the victim they would run a proper scan to determine why the system was having problems.
Ma'am, I'll do one thing for you. I'll guide you some steps on your computer. Please follow it. Let me connect with your computer remotely and I'll set it up for you. Would that work?
This was all part of the standard manipulation tactic used to convince victims that their computers were seriously compromised. During this particular call, the hacker decided to intervene directly to warn the victim. They contacted the victim while the scam was in progress and explained that the person on the phone wasn't from actual tech support, but was instead a scammer trying to defraud them. The victim immediately understood the warning and expressed gratitude for being alerted to the scam. This intervention prevented one person from becoming a victim, but there were many others who had already been scammed before the hacker had a chance to help them. The evidence of previous victims was overwhelming. The hacker downloaded many photos from the scammers' computers showing payments made via credit card and checks. The amounts ranged from $100 to $1, $200 and even $3 more, all paid for absolutely nothing. One photo was particularly disturbing. It showed how the scammers had forced an elderly-looking man to open his webcam, write a check for them, and send it off to some random shell company in the United States. This image perfectly captured the heartless nature of these criminals and their willingness to exploit the most vulnerable people in society. The check payments revealed another layer of the criminal operation. Processing checks internationally is difficult and could arouse suspicion, so the scammers have their victims make checks payable to shell companies in the United States. These companies are part of the money laundering scheme that allows the Indian scammers to access stolen funds. The hacker found evidence of many such companies involved in the scheme. They blurred the company names when sharing the evidence publicly, because they had reported all of them to US federal authorities where they were being investigated. While the hacker couldn't reveal the specific business names being investigated by law enforcement, they were able to work on identifying every single person working inside the call center in India. The first approach was examining files stored on the scammers' computers, but this proved unsuccessful since the computers mostly contained scam-related documents rather than personal information. The breakthrough came when the hacker noticed someone on one of the camera views working in a separate cabin. This individual was Avneet, who turned out to be one of the HR managers working in the call center. The proof was that the room she operated in literally had a sign that said HR room. The hacker used the CCTV cameras to their advantage by watching until Avneet came into the office, waiting for her to take her laptop out of her bag, and then gaining access when she connected to the compromised internet network. This allowed the hacker to pivot directly to her computer. On Avneet's computer alone, the hacker downloaded over 500 files containing confidential company data. The files included employee resumes, photos of ID cards, pictures of the scammers themselves, and most importantly, a spreadsheet containing all of the agents' and managers' personal information, including names, phone numbers, email addresses, and home addresses. This represented a massive leak of the company's employee data. The reason the HR manager stored ID photos on her computer was because the scammers don't use traditional keys to enter the call center. They use access cards instead. The hacker was able to watch Avneet using a portal to request a new access card for one of the agents. The system showed she was using an account owned by someone named Bhupinder, and the company name displayed was Skysaver Ventures Private Limited. A quick Google search of Skysaver Ventures Private Limited revealed that the first result was a scammer warning post created in November 2021. The post listed the directors' names as Bhupinder, Aurora, and Rajat, the same names the hacker had just seen on the HR manager's laptop. The hacker found public records showing that Rajat and Bhupinder had registered Skysaver Ventures Private Limited in 2019. This confirmed that they were operating a scam call center in Punjab, India, under the guise of a legitimate business registration. To further verify the identification, the hacker found Rajat's LinkedIn account, which showed a photo of what he looked like. Remarkably, the HR manager had a photo stored on her hard drive of someone who looked very similar to Rajat's LinkedIn profile picture. This provided visual confirmation that they had correctly identified one of the operations leaders. The next step was gaining access to the people who managed the finances and bookkeeping for the operation. The hacker observed that when agents reached the finale of their scams, they would open their remote chat tool and pass victim information to someone named Chavi. Chavi appeared to manage all of the financial data in the call center. A Google search revealed his LinkedIn profile, which showed he was the operations manager. The profile photo confirmed his identity, and the hacker knew they needed to access his computer to get complete financial information about the scam operation. After waiting several days, the hacker finally gained access to Chavi's computer. They won't reveal the exact methods used since they wanted to use the same techniques in future investigations, but they essentially got access to all of the financial information anyone could imagine. The hacker realized they didn't even need to gather additional information about Chavi, because the 500 files downloaded from the HR manager's computer already contained all of his personal details. They had his information sheet, his Indian identity card or Aadhaar card, and multiple photographs including a very clear photo that matched his ID card and LinkedIn page perfectly. With access to Chavi's computer, the hacker could see everything related to the financial operations. They had access to payment databases, Stripe accounts, and could even watch the scammers creating invoices on PayPal that they sent directly to their victims. The scammers had made another critical error by not setting passwords on their confidential spreadsheets. The hacker was able to access their master tracking spreadsheet, but even when some files were password protected, they had extracted over 250 clear text passwords from the scammers' computers. These passwords gave the hacker direct access to all of the scammers' accounts. They logged into Stripe and PayPal accounts and silently exported all transaction records. This revealed that the scammers were even more careless than originally thought. Rajat, one of the directors and key players in the operation, had used his real name, phone number, and personal email address to set up the fraudulent PayPal account. This allowed the hacker to trace scam payments directly back to his Indian bank account, providing clear evidence of his involvement in the crimes. The hacker gained access to the scammer's invoice page, which revealed exactly how much money they had stolen between 2021 and 2024. Each month, the scammers averaged around $100, zero in theft. Over the course of 1 year, they stole over $1 million. The total amount stolen over 3 years was exactly $2,700,000, all from US and Canadian citizens. With all this financial information, the hacker still needed to determine the exact location of the scam call center. They had access to 2 outside camera angles that showed the entrance of the building, including a security booth and a small road. The scam call center had Wi-Fi networks both inside and outside the building. By using the names of these wireless networks and measuring their signal strengths relative to the scammer computers, the hacker could precisely determine the call center's location. When these coordinates were entered into Google Earth, they pointed to a location in Mohali, Punjab. Using Street View, the hacker could see Villa Verde residential tower and signage for Cork City. Initially, they thought a visible security booth might be the same one shown in the CCTV footage, but comparing the images showed they were different. Through careful analysis of the CCTV footage and Google Earth imagery, the hacker determined that the scam call center was located toward the back of the building complex. They could match specific features like the security booth, parking lot, and building layout to confirm the exact location. The scammers were operating from the Atrium Cork City building in Sector 74, Phase 8B, Mohali, Punjab. When this address was searched on Google, the first result was the official Cork City website, which was the same website the hacker had seen the HR manager using. The hacker found a YouTube video giving a tour of the building, which confirmed the location beyond any doubt. The video showed the entrance that matched Google Street View imagery, and when the camera showed the back of the building, it perfectly matched the CCTV footage from inside the scam center. The building was described as high-end, with amenities like a swimming pool, fitness center, CCTV security cameras, and 24-hour on-site security. The fact that these criminals were operating from such an upscale facility while stealing money from vulnerable seniors made their crimes even more outrageous. To understand the full impact of this operation, the hacker looked for reviews from previous scam victims. They discovered they had access to the scammer's Better Business Bureau account, giving them control over all customer reviews posted about the fake company. The hacker used this access to respond to victim reviews, confirming that they had indeed been scammed and providing information about how to seek refunds through their banks. They even included the directors' names and personal phone numbers in their responses to help victims with their fraud reports. With comprehensive evidence gathered, including names of bosses and employees, exact location, and financial records tracing payments back to the managing directors, the hacker decided to move beyond just watching and begin active sabotage of the operation. The first step was reporting the scammers' Google AdSense accounts so that their fake advertisements would no longer appear in search results. This would prevent new victims from finding their website when searching for legitimate software downloads. Next, they reported the website itself to GoDaddy so that victims could no longer access the chat support and phone numbers used to initiate scams. They also reported the scammers' service agreements to DocuSign to prevent them from sending official-looking invoices to victims. The hacker sent all of the scammer TeamViewer IDs to a contact who worked at TeamViewer, who then permanently banned all of the accounts from the platform. This eliminated the scammers' ability to remotely access victim computers using their preferred software. All of the personal information about Rajat and the other scammers was reported to the FBI. The hacker also logged into the scammer's PayPal account and manually began refunding victims. While this process was too time-consuming to help everyone, it provided some justice for people who had been robbed. Finally, the fraudulent PayPal accounts were reported to PayPal directly, resulting in the accounts being banned and eliminating the scammer's ability to process direct payments from victims. The impact of these disruption efforts was visible through the CCTV cameras. In late December 2023, the scammers removed the main CCTV cameras from the network that the hacker had access to, cutting off the visual view into the call center. However, the scammers forgot about one critical vulnerability: the laptop webcams throughout the office. While most of the scammers had taped over their webcams, some computers were still accessible. The hacker could still monitor some activity and even confront individual scammers directly. In one final confrontation, the hacker called the scam center and spoke directly to an employee named Sanjit. They were able to tell him his name and describe what he was wearing, proving they could see him through the internal cameras. The hacker asked Sanjit directly why he was scamming people.
Why are you scamming people, Sanjeev?
What?
Yeah, your name is Sanjeev.
No.
Yeah, your name is Sanjeev.
No.
Yeah.
And mentioned knowing about Chavi and Rajat by name. They told him to look up at the CCTV cameras and wave, demonstrating that they were watching the operation in real time. Sanjit initially denied being involved in scams, but the hacker explained exactly what his job was: managing chat conversations and passing victim information to other team members. When asked to explain how he wasn't a scammer, Sanjit couldn't provide a satisfactory answer. The conversation clearly rattled the employees, who immediately went to inform their supervisors about what had happened. Through webcam access, the hacker was able to watch as Sanjit reported the incident to Rajat, one of the operations directors. The HR manager of Neat was brought into Rajat's office, where they explained what had happened. She looked visually concerned when she noticed her webcam light was on. Not understanding computers well, she left to get technical help. When Avneet returned with assistance, they pointed directly at the webcam. Someone suggested putting tape over it, but instead of covering the actual camera lens, she mistakenly taped over just the indicator light, leaving the camera still functional. In the main room, everyone was in panic mode, with employees looking concerned about being watched. Chavi, the operations manager, was seen holding tape and pointing at cameras throughout the office. The final scenes showed the scammers frantically trying to cover cameras and even smashing laptops to prevent further surveillance. The hackers' investigation had successfully disrupted their operation and created chaos in their criminal enterprise. This story demonstrates both the devastating impact of international fraud operations and the potential for skilled individuals to fight back against these criminals. While not everyone has the technical abilities to infiltrate scam centers, the evidence gathered provides a roadmap for law enforcement action. The detailed personal information, financial records, and video evidence collected during this investigation was reported to appropriate authorities, including the FBI. While international prosecutions can be challenging, Having such comprehensive evidence significantly improves the chances of eventual justice. The key lessons from this investigation extend beyond just one scam center. These operations follow similar patterns, target the same vulnerabilities, and use comparable tactics. Understanding how they work is the first step in protecting potential victims. Education remains the most powerful weapon against these scams. When people understand the warning signs and tactics used by these criminals, they're much less likely to become victims. Family members can play crucial roles by discussing these risks with elderly relatives and establishing protocols for handling suspicious contacts. The warning signs are consistent across most technical support scams. Legitimate companies don't contact customers unsolicited about computer problems. Real technical support doesn't require remote access to diagnose simple software downloads. Authentic services don't demand immediate payment through unconventional methods. Anyone receiving unexpected calls about computer problems should be immediately suspicious. The safest approach is hanging up and calling the company back using official phone numbers found on legitimate websites. If someone has already given remote access to their computer, they should immediately disconnect from the internet and seek help from a trusted local technician. For people who have already fallen victim to these scams, reporting the crime to appropriate authorities is crucial. The FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center accepts reports of international fraud. Local law enforcement should also be notified for additional resources and support. Banks and credit card companies should be contacted immediately to report fraudulent charges and potentially reverse transactions. While recovery isn't always possible, financial institutions have fraud departments specifically designed to help scam victims. The psychological support aspect is equally important. Scam victims often experience shame, embarrassment, and depression. Family members and friends can provide crucial emotional support by emphasizing that these crimes could happen to anyone and that victims are not to blame. Professional counseling services can be valuable for people struggling with the aftermath of being scammed. Many communities have resources specifically designed to help fraud victims process their experiences and develop coping strategies. The broader implications extend to questions about international cooperation in fighting cybercrime. These operations flourish partly because they operate across international boundaries, making prosecution challenging. Improved cooperation between American and Indian law enforcement could significantly impact these operations. India has legitimate businesses that contribute positively to both countries' economies. Cracking down on fraudulent operations would protect legitimate businesses while stopping criminals who damage the entire industry's reputation. Technology companies bear responsibility for addressing these problems. Search engines could prevent fraudulent advertisements from appearing in results for common software searches. Payment processors could implement better screening for suspicious merchant accounts. The success of this investigation demonstrates that technical solutions exist for fighting these criminal operations. While individual hacking efforts operate in legal grey areas, the techniques used could inform legitimate law enforcement investigations and cybersecurity efforts. As technology evolves, so do the methods used by international fraud operations. Artificial intelligence and sophisticated social engineering make modern scams more convincing than ever. Staying ahead requires constant vigilance from both authorities and potential victims. The human cost extends far beyond immediate financial losses. Every successful scam represents a violation of trust and exploitation of human vulnerability. The criminals profit from people's natural tendency to seek help when facing confusing technical problems. This investigation into the Mohali Scam Center represents just one example of the international fraud industry preying on American consumers, but similar operations exist worldwide, all following similar playbooks and targeting similar vulnerabilities. The fight requires sustained effort from law enforcement, technology companies, financial institutions, and individual citizens. Education and awareness remain the most effective prevention tools, while aggressive investigation and prosecution provide hope for justice. Until international cooperation improves and technology companies take stronger action, these stories will continue repeating. Every day these centers operate freely, more vulnerable people become victims of their calculated cruelty. The evidence gathered provides hope that justice may be served. With clear criminal identification, detailed financial records, and documented proof of activities, authorities have tools needed for meaningful prosecutions. The ultimate victory will come from creating systems that prevent these operations from succeeding. That requires staying informed, remaining vigilant, and protecting the most vulnerable community members from these digital predators. This investigation serves as both a warning about sophisticated modern fraud and inspiration for those willing to fight back. While not everyone can hack into scam centers, everyone can contribute by staying educated, reporting suspicious activities, and supporting victims in recovery. These criminals count on silence, shame, and ignorance to continue operations. By sharing stories, educating potential victims, and supporting law enforcement efforts, we can work together to shut down these heartless enterprises and protect their targets. The fight against international fraud continues, but investigations like this prove these criminals aren't untouchable. With determination, skill, and cooperation, We can expose their operations and bring them to justice. Anyways, I hope everyone takes care of their hard-earned money and don't fall for these scammers. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for more scammer-related news.